Hello there retro heads, welcome back to A Hermit's Hideaway. In this video we're going to be looking at the pickups that I got from Retro Revival Generation X 2018. And before we do that, just a little bit of chat really, just to let you know why there really hasn't been a video over the last 2 or 3 weeks, because at one point I had a video every week and then it slowed right down again. So basically I've had a project on the go. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of that, which I'll put up on the screen, and as you can see it's another arcade machine I'm building. It's my second bar top. I'm really pleased with the progress of it so far, and I think that it's vastly improved over the last one that I did. I've learnt a lot because it's the first one that I've ever done. Again, completely hand built, made from scratch. I'm not going to show the whole of it because that can wait for a video, but as you can see it's coming along nicely and I'm not far off finishing. I've just got to wait for a few more parts and then order a couple of different parts to finish it off before the big reveal and big video. Also, obviously with the revival event as well, which is absolutely brilliant, that kind of tired me out a little bit and I was sort of a little bit retroed out from it because it was a long weekend, long days, and I had my fill of playing arcades and retro games, so I think I've just been a little bit tired since, so not had as much energy, as well as it being half term again with the kids being off and around at home. Seems to come round really quick. So let's have a look at what I got. So one of the first pickups I got this lovely Spectrum +2. I've been after one of these for a while now and it was at a price that I couldn't refuse. I did say to myself, if I saw one at a good price then I'd buy it. Nick from Vintage Gamer cut me a brilliant deal. He's a great guy, and I said in one of my last videos how much of a great guy he is and the bargains and the deals that he does. But to get this for £45 with the PSU was a bargain alone. But then I was also interested in getting a childhood SNES game, which I honestly don't remember a lot about, apart from, well, I say I don't remember a lot about it. I remember it's of more of a fighting game based on the Dragon film of Bruce Lee, and I do remember it being quite a good game, but it was quite tough as well. And from what I remember, it is just a sort of beat 'em up where you just go through different levels of fighting people, but it was good. I did enjoy that. So obviously Dragon being £10, Spectrum +2 being 45, I thought, well, I'm going to put down Dragon because it's going to be slightly out of my budget. I took a Retron 5 adapter with me, which I don't have the Retron 5, but I thought the adapter might work on a Mega Drive too because I saw it in a video, but it turns out you need an upscaling tool or device to be able to use it on the Mega Drive. So fortunately that didn't work out. So I managed to trade it in towards getting these, and Nick did me both for £50, so it knocked a fiver off Dragon, so I was really happy to get that for a fiver. Really happy to only pay 45 for the +2. With the +2, it is the first one that I've ever owned. I've never owned a Spectrum before. My dad had one when I was a child, which I do remember playing. I always have a vivid memory of hearing the load screens, as everyone does, because that was just part of the nostalgia and part of the special sounds and the sequences of booting up while you're waiting for it to load. And I always thought that was with my Commodore 64 because that's what I remember owning as a child. That was my own computer. But actually it was actually the Spectrum that my dad had that I have memories of playing games like ATV Simulator and 180 Darts and things like that. I asked my dad about it a few months back, asked him if he did have one, and he said that he did, and he said that it was notorious for breaking down, so he just kept it in the back of his wardrobe for ages, and I don't know what happened to that, because it would have been nice to have been able to get it off and see if I can get it fixed. But anyway, thanks to David Birdsall and also thanks to Paul Smallman, they helped me work out how to get an MP3 car tape adapter playing with that, so expect some Spectrum videos coming up quite soon. So let's move on. Move those out of the way. Here are a couple of Commodore games that I got. These were £1 each, and also they are new old stock. No idea if they work, because obviously the age of them. As Christian Van Tilburg knows very well, you sometimes buy new old stock and they don't work. So I've got Dan Dare 2 and Rick Dangerous. Rick Dangerous was a great game. I've played the homebrew version of this. I think it was a homebrew version of it done. And so these are both Commodore 64 games. You will know how much of a big Commodore head I am. Next game I got Solitaire Poker for the Game Gear. So I can get it there to focus. And I paid £1 for that, and that was from one of the cheap retro stores where it just wants to get rid of stuff. I like Solitaire. I don't mind poker. I'm quite like a solitaire game, to be honest, but I just wanted to bulk out the Game Gear collection a bit. There weren't many other games there apart from Nick from Vintage Gamer, who always cuts a great deal. He was doing 4 for a tenner, but I'd already pretty much spent my budget by then, all my money, so that was a bit of a shame. So next up, we've got another 2 new homebrew titles by Cytronic Software. These are done by Ken's, and you can get these off the Binary Zone store. And finding these, because I knew he was going to be at the event anyway, I just didn't know where he'd be. He was sort of pushed up in a corner by the bar, so sadly he wasn't that easy to find unless you happen to go to the bar for a drink and then you see him right next to you. So I didn't do that for a while, so I didn't find out where he was for a while. So there are some screenshots on the back of that, but it's probably not going to focus too well. So obviously Joe Gun being an Indiana Jones type game, and then Guns and Ghosts. I'm not quite sure what type of game this is at the moment, but look out for these coming up soon. I'll be playing these both in the video. Next up, I bought a load of games from Retro Games. Let's go through them quickly. So I got Grand Prix Simulator. That was £1, and that is for the Commodore 64 course. I got Trapdoor, which was £3. That's for the Amstrad. I really enjoyed seeing David Birdsall gameplay of this, so I thought I'd get that because I enjoyed the look of it. It looked like a great game. There's some for David Birdsall's Eye Candy. We know how much he loves the egg. There's Quick Snack Dizzy. It's supposed to be a really good sort of Pac-Man type puzzle game, this one. I've never played it before. Again, £3. Happy to pick that up. It's some bargain games at the event. You don't normally get games this cheap really, apart from the odd Facebook group sale. Next up there is Fast Food Dizzy. There's a bit more egg eye candy for David Birdsall. We know, like I say, how much he loves the egg. This one again is a maze type puzzle game like Pac-Man. And actually Quick Snacks looks a bit more like Bomberman meets Pengu actually, from the look at the screenshots at the back. Those are £3 each. Another game that I saw on David's channel, this was Nightmare. This is again for the Commodore 64. The Dizzy games are also for the Commodore 64 as well, but I enjoyed the look of this. Looked like a very interesting sort of RPG element game, and it is quite akin to the actual game, which was cool as well. And the last one I think was BMX Racers. Never played it, but I'm on a mission to get as many Commodore 64 games as I can and fill up my drawers. So that is £1 for that one. So I think there was supposed to be £14 for those lot, and I was only charged £12 for them all, which was really nice, so knocked a couple of quid off for me. I got for the Amstrad, because I own an Amstrad of course, I got Omami, never played it before but I've heard of it before and I'm really looking forward to giving this a go. That was only £1. And then I've also got, again on the Amstrad, Postman Pat 2. So I've got the first Postman Pat on the Commodore 64 and it's quite a ruthless game, it is tough. Next up, I've been after a pair of these for quite a while now. I missed out on a set of them last year at Revival. They were probably going cheaper than what I paid for these, to be honest, and these were cheap. But I was doing the video walkthrough. By the time I got back on my last year's Revival, they had already gone. I hadn't even noticed them because I was just focused on filming with the camera. Paid £5 for these, a really nice trader, and you also had a box full of controllers, which I need to get a Master System controller, which I don't have at the moment. The price of Master System controllers have gone through the roof at the moment. It's ridiculous. You used to be able to get one for like £5 and now you're paying over £10. Also, a friend of mine, Clint, did say with the Plus 2, which I didn't know at the time, you've got to have special joysticks for them, which are the JS? No, SJS1 joysticks is what you need for the Plus 2, the only ones that work apparently, unfortunately, for the Spectrum. So they're not cheap, but they're not too expensive either, but I've heard that they're crap controllers, so I may have to try and get some sort of interface or adapter in the future. Next up I got, it looks like a GunCon for the PlayStation 2, but it's actually got an aim-track OEM inside it. My good friend Ross very kindly gave me this in exchange for a blue N64 controller to go with his collection. So I'll be doing more light gun games and comparing this with the GunCon, no not the GunCon, sorry, the EMS Top Gun 3. So this should be more reliable, work with far more games on coin-ops, which would be great. Also got a free adapter because the guy that gets rid of all the retro games really cheaply is the Game Boy Shack. Also have one of these adapters for the GunCon controllers, which I didn't have. I needed one of these for some of my other GunCons that I picked up last year at Car Boot. And finally, I won this awesome poster, which is called Curse of the Dracula, which it looks very Castlevania-esque, which is what I loved about the poster anyway. And I think I won this by sending in a witty tweet on Twitter to the developers, and they contacted me towards the end of the day and said I won the poster, so can I go and collect it? It was left with Becky Turner, Craig's good wife, and I went and collected it off her. As I say, it's a homebrew game for the Mega Drive. I really liked it. It was a sort of first-person dungeon crawling game, quite similar to things like Eternal Ring and stuff like that on the PlayStation 2 and Ultima and stuff like that, and I just really enjoyed what I played of it. It's still in its early stages. So that is it for the games. That's all my pickups that I got. I hope you enjoyed those. And how well did I do? I didn't think I did too bad. I'm quite pleased with what I got, to be honest. Obviously, now having the Spectrum, I only had about 3 or 4 games for the Spectrum. I didn't have many, and I didn't think I'd ever probably get a Spectrum again anytime soon. But thankfully, a few months ago, I did win this huge box of cassettes for £10 off eBay. Inside there, I've got a few games as well as cover tapes and people's own tapes that they made themselves. But I got quite a few games inside there as well. Not too many, but probably about 15 all in all. So I've got things like this really nice clamshell Amstrad game in there. So I do need to go through this box at some point, but I've got in there Commodore 64, Spectrum, there's even BBC micro tapes in there. Obviously some Amstrad, and at some point I will do a video going through this box now and going from having only 3 or 4 Spectrum games. I've got a whole box of stuff in here, so I've probably got about 30 or 40 Spectrum games alone with the cover tapes and the homemade tapes that people have made. So that's enough rambling for me for today. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.